Alrighty, we are pretty close now. We have a development build for our server, a production build for our server, and a production build for our client. We don't yet have a development build for our client, and the way, like I said, we're going to do that is we're going to build it from within the server process, but we don't have a server process to build anything in right now. So in this video, I am going to install Socket.io, install Express, install Jade, and get a server going. So that in the next video we can add the Webpack middleware. So like usual, we're going to start off with npm installing some stuff, and these are going to be runtime dependencies, so we'll use -save. And I want Express, and I want Socket.io, and I want Jade. So go ahead and grab those three things. It's going to be a very similar setup to what we had before. While those install, let's jump up into source server. I'm going to delete all this stuff. We don't need that anymore. That was just there to test. And I'm going to start off by importing things. So let's import. Remember, do this after you install your source map support. But anyway, let's go ahead and import Express from Express. Let's import HTTP from HTTP. Let's import Socket.io from Socket.io. Let's import, you know what, I think that's fine. Those are the three things we need. Now I'm going to delineate some sections here, and we're going to be filling out these sections as we go along with the series. We're going to start off with our setup section, and then we want to do our Webpack. And then after we do our, well, let's do client Webpack. And then after we do that, we want to do our modules. After we do that, we want to do our socket. After we do that, we want to actually start up. So for setup, what we're going to do is we are just going to instantiate the objects that we had seen in the previous example, Express app. So we're going to say const app equals Express, const server equals new http.server of app. And we're going to do const io equals socket.io server. And then we're going to say app.use, or set, sorry, view engine Jade. Actually, I just changed my mind about something. After we do client Webpack, we're going to do another section for configure Express. And we're going to do that because we need to instantiate Express before we do our client Webpack. But we want to set the view engine and create our static middleware after we set up the client Webpack. So then I'm going to say app.use express.static public. So that's going to serve out our public folder. And after we do that, let's go ahead and do our one route. We're only doing one route in this series. And I'm going to say var use external styles equals process.env.nodeenv. Actually, I can make this even better. I can go up to the top. Let's do, before we do setup, I'm going to do const is development equals process env node env equals development. So what this is doing, or rather, actually a better idea would be not equals production. So what this is doing is this is saying if the environment variable node env is not set to production, set is development to true. And we're going to use that down here for our use external styles. I'm going to say use external styles equals not is development. And then I'm going to say app.get, and I'm going to do a / there. Then I'm going to do my request and result. So app.get rec.res, and I'm going to say res render index, and I'm going to pass in use external styles. So what exactly am I doing here? Well, first of all, again, I'm extracting out the environment variable node environment and setting it to is development. Then I'm setting my view engine to Jade. I'm serving out my static middleware. And then I'm saying use external styles equals is not development. And the idea here is that when we're in production, we want to reference that CSS file, that extracted CSS file. But when we're in development, when we're not in production, when we're in development, we want to use the Webpack hot middleware. So we need to tell the view if it should include a link to that CSS file or not. And we're basing that off of whether or not we are in development. So that's all we're passing in right now to our index view. And our index view does not exist yet, but it will in a bit. So again, this is the only route that we're defining here. All right, so we're going to skip modules and socket for now, and we're just going to do our startup. I'm going to say const port equals process env port or 3000. So if our production environment or our development environment overrode the port that we're supposed to start on by accessing the port environment variable, which is not something that's magical and built into Node, but it's a convention that's used by web hosting services to say, hey, you're going to want to start on this port. And if they define that environment variable, then we use that as the port number. Otherwise, we use 3000, which is going to be our default development. And then I'm going to, let's see here. Then we do something that's going to look a little weird at first. I'm going to say function start server, and it's going to simply be server.listen on port, and then the onComplete callback is going to say console log started HTTP server on, whoops, I meant to make this a template string, my bad, on port. So I'm wrapping our server.listen call in the start server method or function that I'm going to immediately call down here. And the reason I'm doing that is in the future, we are actually going to have a bit more of a startup process where we're going to have to initialize all of our modules and do a bunch of fancy stuff. But for now, we don't have that. So now we're just defining the function start server, then immediately invoking it. But in the future, we're going to invoke start server in a callback. But yeah, let me go ahead and just run through this code one more time here. So we start off with importing our source maps, importing our express HTTP and socket.io, determining if we're in development. We then create our main entities that we're going to be working with, our express app, our HTTP server, and our socket.io server, which ESLint is complaining about. What I can do for now is, I'll fix that in a second. Then we have our empty client Webpack, which we'll fill in the next video. Then we have configure our express, which is just using the Jade view engine, setting our public static folder, and then handling the root request, which we render index, the view that doesn't exist yet. And then we do our modules in socket, which we will do socket now, just because socket.io ESLint's complaining. I'm going to say socket on connection, and then empty blah, 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 then console log client connected. Or how about, we can make this even better. Socket on connection, we take in the socket, and then as a template string, we say got connection from, and then socket.request.connection.remote address. And so that makes ESLint all super happy. And we'll get some feedback if we ever do connect to socket.io. And then we do our startup, which is just establishing our port, starting our server. And that's it. So that's our server. Super exciting stuff. Well, not really, because it's pretty much what we did in the section before this. So let's go ahead and start this up. Again, all we do is Gulp Dev. That's all we do. Gulp Dev is we'll build our server, clean our server, build our server, then start our server. And now we have a server started on port 3000. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So if we move over here, we'll obviously get an exception. Failed to look up view index and views directory. And it's defaulting to that views directory. Well, that's because we don't have that view yet. So let's go ahead and create that view. Coming over here into our folder, I'm going to create a new folder called views. And then inside of that, I'm going to create index.jade. All right, so let's write out our index.jade. Obviously, it's not going to be finished yet, but we can get enough done. We'll do doctype HTML, and then we'll do HTML, and then we'll do head, and then we'll do title, and I don't know, we'll call this sync play or something. I haven't figured out a title yet. And then I'm going to say if, and I'm going to use that variable that was passed into the use external styles. I'm going to say if use external styles, then we want a link tag that does rel equals style sheet and href equals /build/application.css. Remember, this is for our production. So if we have done the extract user styles, then we want to print out a reference to the styles up at the top. Otherwise, we don't. Then I'm going to do a body. And inside body, I'll just do h1 hello world. And then I'll do my scripts. And what scripts do we want? We want source /build vendor.js. We want to include the vendor first. That is incredibly important. That's the way the Common Chunks plugin works. We want to include the vendor first. The reason why is the vendor includes some Webpack specific runtime-y stuff. And so we want to get that stuff in first. Then we include our entry chunk, which will be script source equals build application.js. So that'll include our application. And so far, okay, so that's our index.jade so far. Not that exciting. Let's come over here and hit refresh. We get hello world. We get a couple failed to load resources. Build vendor and build application didn't quite want to be included for some reason. So let's go... Whoops, that's source, isn't it? Oh, it got cleaned. That's why. We can simulate a production build, I guess. I can go ahead and come in here and say gulp prod client, just to see if it'll work. What's going to be cool about the DevHop middleware is it's actually going to replace those files. Those files are going to be where they, in development, they're going to be located technically in the same location as in production. But the difference is Webpack hop middleware is going to hijack these requests to these physical files. But let's come back over here and hit refresh and check that out. Now, since I did a development build, remember the reason we got that was because in source client application.js I did, body HTML. Well, but reason we're not seeing any styles is I did a production build on the client for the client assets, but I did not set use external styles to true. If I removed that if statement, we will actually get our CSS included. And there we go with our awesome pattern. But for now, I just wanted to test that stuff was loading. It's not a big deal because we're going to be replacing what's going to be included from these paths in the next video where we do our DevHop middleware. So with that, I think we'll see you guys in the next video.